This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map Rock Ridge with LiCtor as the yellow allies in the top left and GoDoFWaR as the blue allies in the bottom left. And then in the top right we have Proffloff as the Cyan Empire, and the purple empire is going to be none other than Thomiq or Thomiq. Still have no idea how to actually pronounce that. It is going to be Americans versus Japs if you want to go World War II. And really make some sort of reference there. It's going to be a classic matchup, good old allies versus empires. Early dogs from both of our allies players. They want to know exactly what is going on. Of course, this is a little bit of an unfamiliar map because I have played it before, but it has been quite a while. It's kind of a large map, one of the funner 2v2 maps, one of the more fun 2v2 maps. Goodness, the quality has degraded, hasn't it? I can't even speak English properly, and yet somehow I do it so much. We do have, it looks like triple dojo, possibly it was a quad dojo out of Thomiq, and I think it was like triple dojo or something similar. We got some burst drones out of both of our Empire players, and I didn't actually check if this was off of 10 grand, but considering C9 is not in this game, it likely was 10 grand to start out with. We have the Dojo Corps going to be leading the charge for Thomiq. He's following it up with just Imperial Warriors, pretty much, and then the Allied MCV is actually going to be spotted, and for whatever reason, Thomiq really doesn't want to go after those, the Javelin Troopers. I think if he would have switched that over to the Bonsai Charge, he could have ran around the MCV, but it is very possible that he would have just gotten crushed and lost it anyways. However, we do have the first little windmill being taken by Thomiq and kind of the first action of the game. Other than that, it looks like early expansions relatively early for our allied players. They're looking to set themselves up with some solid eco, and of course we do have the cores moving out likely across the map for our Empire players as well. More infantry engagements in the bottom left side and streaming infantry over for some possible building wars, which, I mean, this is essentially going to be a show on AMC soon enough. They have every other wars. Actually, I don't think it's AMC. I think it's a different network. That doesn't even actually matter, as Tengus are on the map. They have been spotted, which, of course, I mean, if Tengus weren't on the map at this point, I would be a little bit worried as to what Thomiq and Proffloff were actually doing with their time in Red Alert 3, camping at that dojo, and the dog will get the kill there, while we do have another dog from LiCtor that will get immediately sniped down. Oh, so close. That Tengu was close to being taken out. However, it will survive and be able to take down the Prospector. The Prospector might be able to bug through the refinery and escape through that wall. Yes, he very well indeed. Walls. The Prospector is much like the Honey Badger. He just don't care about walls or many other things. And that Bonsai charged Imperial Warrior will be able to take down one of those Javelin Troopers, kick it out of that building. We do have the airbase, which has been thrown down and been spotted, but nothing is really unusual is happening, which is, of course, pretty standard, because if it was usual, then it is standard. That's kind of how words work. 3 more Tengus going to be swooping in for Proffloff. He will be transforming one, and a second one as well, to try and take down that Prospector, and then the third Tengu, which kind of is a 4th Tengu, will be going for that. Oh, and it catches the infantry. Good move by Thomiq. He will be able to shoot all of these infantry in the back. I guess he doesn't want to actually focus down the ones in the rear. He wants to stop the ones in the front. And back on the other side of things, we do have, once again, those Tengus doing a little bit too much damage. It looks like one of them was taken out by the Vindicator. The Apollo is going to be watching over these other Tengus just to make sure that they don't cause too much damage. And that is exactly what GoDoFWaR wanted, was that building, so he could take out that oil derrick, or at least once he was getting shot up by Tengus, that's what he wanted. Tengu's going to be getting taken out. One of them may actually crash down. No, it does not crash down onto the Striker VX. The Striker VX will be able to take out both of these Apollos very quickly, and they do crash down, but they do not do anything to that Chopper VX. I think that was a little bit of a physics glitch there, where it looked like the Chopper VX almost caught a piece of that debris as it transformed. Oh, goodness, LiCtor, what are you actually doing? He still has not done anything to deal with these 2 Tengus. He luckily, fortunately, has cleaned up the ones that were over here, but he hasn't cleaned up these 2 over here. He's going to be going for them with that Vindicator. doesn't have anything to really finish the job just yet. Mass Tengus and a couple of Chopper VXs as well, although they do transform just as the Apollos show up, which means those Apollos will be made short work of. Good control of that Vindicator. Possibly could have splashed both of those if he would have controlled even better. A couple of Tank Busters going to be getting in on the action. Always good to mix in a couple of Tank Busters when you're going building or even tank hunting as Empire. And good mix between, as you can see, Tengus from, well, now Tengus from Thomiq as well, but Tengus from Proffloff mixing in with the Chopper VXs and Tank Busters of Thomiq to make a nice, well-balanced attack force and nice little bit of camaraderie from the two players as they do join forces to fight against the allied H2O players. Which, oh, nice catch there by Thomiq. As you can see, he was running his Tengu around to try and get in front of those units to really take them down. And, oh, this is going to be a nice hit, although we do have dual multi-gunner turrets. Oh, poor LiCtor. He doesn't actually have the power to sustain that extra multi-gunner turret as he probably just had to sell something off or place down a power plant rather quickly. The first Tsunami tanks are now out and into battle as they likely were out before. But we do have a couple of Imperial Warriors brought along for the ride. They will actually be absorbing a couple of shots from this turret, which is always nice if you can save your tanks from taking the extra shots and they're instead firing on those almost useless Imperial Warriors. I mean, you might as well. The barracks does get thrown down on the front line. Likely will be for some dogs to try and immediately bark down. And he is able to lock down two of those Imperial Warriors. Tengu's going to be showing up, and an additional Tsunami tank, which is not actually engaging anything. And, oh, brilliant catch there by Proffloff as he was able to snipe down 3,200 and might as well throw in another 1,200 there for the Vindicator, though throwing down right on top of that multi-gunner turret. Not the best idea. However, the focus firing isn't the best from LiCtor either, so that means that those Tengus will, for the most part, survive. And, oh, 2 cryo shots will be used there, but they will not be to any great effect on the south side. Thomiq and LiCtor, and Proffloff rather, have been held off by LiCtor and GoDoFWaR, and now they're desperately struggling to hold off the north side as more pressure is applied from the Empire team, although they aren't coordinating their forces quite as well as they were before. We do have a sudden transport. We need to keep an eye on that. It could very well contain tank busters or even engineers for some sort of silly engineer cap play. It has definitely been spotted. It will likely be tank busters, but it could be anything, as it does pop out right there. It will be those 5 tank busters, including that one fully heroic tank buster. Going to be going for the Harvester. You got to be careful about getting too close to that spot, as you can be taken by surprise. Then the cryo beams will freeze one of those Tengus, but they're one of the Tsunami tanks rather, and almost gets crashed down on there by those Tengus as they were engaging there. However, LiCtor will be taking some nice damage to his economy from Thomiq as he was able to sneak in there with those tank busters, and good freezing from LiCtor. Going to be able to eliminate that in that army stat. Take them down with great efficiency. Just needs to make sure that he cleans up the rest of Proffloff's army. You never want to leave individual units in your base when they're your opponent's unit, and then they're just kind of keeping an eye on your stuff and seeing what they can. Grabbing the building is a great choice, but the Peacekeeper may be able to force down one of these units. Good blocking by Thomiq. This is something that we've seen players do quite recently, is really utilize the pathing of Sage to block off those units. Although the cryocopters are only going to be so useful because they're going to have a hard time actually, or they're going to be very useful because the tank busters are going to have a hard time actually shooting them, as the tank busters just cannot figure out how do I point my gun up into the sky to really shoot stuff there. And we do have LiCtor and GoDoFWaR joining forces, but mostly it is GoDoFWaR on the south side. I did think that I saw some LiCtor forces, but my eyes do deceive me. It is going to be able to crush through this, as allied infantry are so incredibly powerful when they're supported by those cryocopters. You have so many units that are just able to take down stuff so quickly. He needs to take down the barracks so he doesn't get stabbed in the back, almost quite literally, by tons of Imperial Warriors with their swords. And they're not quite lightsabers, because that would be a violation of copyright, and we cannot have that. Good focus firing from that. Well, I guess there was really only one thing to shoot. A couple of Chopper VX is going to be standing by. It does look like LiCtor, he is not satisfied to go for any sort of the outlying buildings. He wants to go for the heart and the soul of Thomiq's base. Needs to make sure that he doesn't run his tanks into the cryo beam, but he doesn't even have to worry about it just now. The Striker VX is going to be rolling in there, stepping into the battle to try and help lock down those cryocopters. But LiCtor is going to be facing a lot of damage output from both of these players, although throwing away a nice chopper VX, a striker VX rather, for Thomiq to lose, and for LiCtor to totally get the kill on, although LiCtor will not be able to hold on the front line here. He does still have an expansion over there, so if he's able to hide something in his ally's base, then he'll be able to just chill and do a little bit of damage possibly, although I don't know that he actually has any more production structures, as Proffloff is just going to be sort of expanding all over the map, taking another expansion for himself, and there goes Thomiq. He has been defeated. He's like, hey, you know what, GG, sup, I'm out of here, because I simply have nothing else to do. Oh, the Apollos, what are you actually doing, LiCtor? Get them out of there. As he does lose 3 Apollos there, his MCV was able to escape, and great move right there, going to be shrinking it up and running it away. That's exactly what he needs to do. And now GoDoFWaR has a choice to make. He's like, hey, do I want to try and pull back to defend my allies' MCV and expansions, or do I want to try to swing around and try to run all that way, which is really way too far for those infantry forces to try and get around? But now it is going to be a 2v1. Proffloff, he does have a lot of economy, and he can pretty readily expand and take these expansions, which used to be LiCtor's. Wouldn't be too surprised to see him take those back from LiCtor, since he's eliminated basically everything that is of use of LiCtor's on the top side of the map. Although LiCtor constantly getting some nice eco from over here. He's going to be trying to get some build radius back up. He's probably likely going to be possibly expanding over here, although that would be towards Proffloff and quite dangerous, although this could be a really solid engagement if there is any defenses thrown down by either one of these players. As you can see, LiCtor throws down the IFV, or the multi-gunner turret, on the front line almost. He wants to be able to get some shots off here, although GoDoFWaR going to be throwing away some units. He's trying to do some damage, snipes down a tsunami tank. Good moves there, and oh, the dual cryo Geddon or cryo shot. Actually, I think that was just 2 cryo shots, which was essentially completely wasted. He was able to claim one of the tank busters, but he did lose one of his own units, and there goes an extra tsunami tank. So Proffloff has been severely weakened, but we do want to still call attention to the great economy of Proffloff. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, although admittedly the ones in his base are getting somewhat low. They're not quite out yet. He's got 7, going to be 8, and getting that tier 3 up as well, and might as well call it 9, because he's probably going to be taking a 9th expansion relatively soon, getting out an additional mecha bay. He's going for tons and tons of Tengus, which Tengus are one of those units, while they can be countered quite well, it's hard to counter them both in air and on land when they are in such great numbers, and when you can just simply throw down onto them those point defense drones. Do we have 3 mecha bays? Yes, we do, because Proffloff actually has more money than he can possibly spend right now, so he's like, you know what I need is more mecha bays, because he's secretly trying to play StarCraft 2 in Red Alert 3 and just build a million production facilities. LiCtor going to be sending out and attacking in force, well, not really in force, but in coordination with LiCtor, who's going to be moving out to take down. There goes LiCtor's forces. All of them basically do get eliminated, while on the other side, GoDoFWaR going to be attacking Proffloff's alternate water expansion, which really there are 3 of them, and oh, that Yari mini-sub, who is the hero in the waters. He's like, yeah, I've only been around this game for like a minute, but already I'm double vet already. I've killed a unit of LiCtor's. He's going to be feeling very good about himself. However, the Tengus, the mass Tengus, will break up every single party that the allied players are trying to have, and they're desperately trying to get themselves back online in this little corner of the base. But what can you really do versus this much production of LiCtor? He's pretty constantly pumping out units. He's going to be getting himself another expansion, not actually using this mecha bay. I'm not sure if it's really worth having, but this is exactly what Proffloff needs to be doing. What am I talking about exactly? Systematically going through and destroying LiCtor, at least destroying LiCtor on the north side, where Proffloff has control of the north side basically. He can take whatever he wants on the north side pretty much uncontested, but he needs to make sure that he's not leaving individual pockets of LiCtor's units that could potentially allow LiCtor to rebuild. That was what I was trying to say. Oh, and the hydrofoils will be able to get some good shots off. However, oh, this is absolutely great here. It's going to be forcing the Tengus back and back, but is there anything here to actually take down the Tengus? Only a couple of them were frozen. However, they did more importantly force the splitting of the Tengus and force them away from this location for at least 20 or 30 seconds. A couple of more of them will get frozen, and that did completely split LiCtor's forces. He was forced to run away and hide. At least hide his Tengus for a little bit. He will transform them there to escape. One Tengu will get taken out by LiCtor, who is certainly still in this game, which is more than we can say for Thomiq, who was eliminated. I thought it was going to be LiCtor and Thomiq eliminated almost essentially at the same time, but LiCtor was able to run his MCV and escape to the wonderful hands of GoDoFWaR, who was able to keep him safe and bat away the mean old Proffloff, who was just being, I guess, too mean. Proffloff being a little bit of bully when LiCtor was clearly at a lesser position, but we do have, oh so important, the Shogun Battleship. Not a unit that you see in 1v1s in pro level matches, but these players are almost all experts. And these players are indeed going to be getting themselves, well, at least one of these players is going to be getting themselves some Shogun battleships, which are always fun and exciting to see. We do have going to be LiCtor and GoDoFWaR rather, not LiCtor. I was going to say probably some of LiCtor's units, but he's going to be moving out on the north side with a Prospector. Turns out Prospectors don't actually do that much damage to your opponent, although using his Prospectors after the refineries go down to re-establish build radius and get himself another refinery is always a great move by LiCtor. And now GoDoFWaR, does he have what it takes to stop the Tsunami tank, but mostly Tengu army of Proffloff? It is going to come down to likely a last few engagements. And oh, Shogun battleships are so good, but they're not as good when they can't actually do anything. Do we have any cryocopters, either from LiCtor or GoDoFWaR, to support on the water? Because that is really what these players need to take down these Shogun battleships with only a Riptide or two. And oh, here come the Tengus. They're going to be transforming, but they're in the air for way too long. They're not going to be able to take down these units fast enough. They do transform, and I may have been wrong because the raining bodies of those Tengus were able to do massive amounts of splash damage. And that army, which was quite impressive from GoDoFWaR, was suddenly completely decimated by the raining down bodies, but also by the crushing of those Tsunami tanks. And that is one of the reasons why that dishonorable discharge or honorable discharge upgrade is oh so good, because that happens without even having to control properly. He was like, hey, I'm gonna go in and take out these cryocopters so that they don't ruin my army, and for it I'm going to be able to lose a bunch of Tengus, which normally isn't a good thing, except when you can lose a bunch of Tengus and then on top of that say, hey, guess what? My Tengus, which you just killed, are now killing the stuff that killed my Tengus in a weird turn of events. And actually, freezing down your own units is never a good thing. And I don't know if that Shogun battleship is actually just a little bit frozen that he can't shoot, or why exactly he's not being able to shoot right there. Or perhaps Proffloff had him on a hold fire position so that he didn't accidentally splash something. But those two units of LiCtor's, which were frozen, are now unfrozen, and Proffloff missed a very minor opportunity. Oh, that is not a minor opportunity, though. And we do have a Javelin Trooper going to be able to splash down a couple of those. Oh, that Peacekeeper getting all the glory, as the Javelin Trooper is just a little bit too slow. Brutal use of that cryo get-in from, I'm guessing that was either LiCtor, although it could have been GoDoFWaR, as they both did use their cryo support powers at almost the exact same time. And Proffloff never was able to expand to the side of the map that was once controlled by LiCtor, and LiCtor was able to just sit back, macro up, and really crush and come back with a pretty good Riptide army and crush through a lot of Proffloff's forces. Proffloff is likely just shaking his head wondering what exactly happened, as we did have kind of an interesting exchange where raining Tengus dying Tengus were able to take down a lot of GoDoFWAR's army, but then in a couple of moments there with that great Cryo-Geddon, he was able to take down a lot of Proffloff's army. And I don't know, maybe Proffloff actually just threw his headset off, walked away from his computer, and said, "I'm done," but he has been defeated as Proffloff leaves the game there. Undoubtedly a GG for our allied players, as they did quite enjoy themselves. And oh, GoDoFWAR, right as those Tengus all crashed down onto his army, and then on top of that, the King Oni and those Tsunami tanks as well did help with that. But as you can see, tons of infantry from GoDoFWAR just instantly dropped off, and that was where Proffloff really started to have a good lead, and then just too much stuff from LiCtor and GoDoFWAR. They were just able to crush through and, dare I say, freeze their way to victory in an icy cold defeat. Proffloff left the game. 20 minutes of action between these four players, these four top players, and that will do it for this match. As you can see, Proffloff was able to dominate the resources of this game, but the combined strengths of LiCtor and GoDoFWAR in a 2v1 were able to finally overcome Proffloff, which, you know, not that surprising that two players were able to beat one player, but you have to hand it to Proffloff. He was able to hold off and do an incredible amount of damage, but in the end, the allied players too strong. That will do it for this match. This is Sybert, signing out.